Hello, Newsmax Daily podcast family. The date is January 23rd, 2025, and I am your fill-in anchor, Kay Hill, still often referred to as Kay Smythe or Kay Smythe-Hill, filling in today for the ever-fantastic Tony Marino, and boy, do we have a show for you. It has been one of those weeks. Guys, we are going to look back on the things that have taken place in the last 3 days and say, thank you, Jesus, forever. We are at the end of insanity. We're moving into the real cultural revolution this amazing country needed after the last 4 years. And to start the show today, we're tuning over to one of my best friends in the whole world, Carl Higbie, on his show Frontline. Carl interviewed former British Prime Minister Liz Truss yesterday. And look, obviously I'm from Britain. And I've been saying forever we needed a MAGA-style revolution back in the UK. I just didn't think those tea-drinking Queen lovers were up for it. And honestly, after listening to Liz, I really couldn't agree more that that's exactly what we need. And it sounds like there are some folks there who are ready for it. Take it away, Carl and Liz. Let the revolution be televised.
Trump is shaking up the world view on pretty much everything. Alex Phillips, former member of the European Parliament, and Liz Truss, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. All right, so, Alex, this whole thing with Trump shaking up the entire world. Huge difference in a matter of seconds. You've got Europe responding. You've got the World Economic Forum going on right now. What's your take on all this?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. There are a lot of people on the right wing of British politics who are so pleased to finally see America going, right, we're going to wake up and we're going to start changing the way things are done in the same way that we basically live under a communist government right now in Britain. And so at least the hope is when there's that divergence between America and the UK, it gets a lot more difficult for the UK to drag its heels.
No, absolutely. Well, ma'am, you obviously former Prime Minister of England or of the UK. There's a huge difference between the freedom of speeches from where you are from where we are from. Trump has strengthened those, but you have people being arrested right now in the UK for a Facebook post. I mean, that is shocking.
It is absolutely nuts that people are getting longer in jail for a Facebook post than they are for raping underage girls. I mean, that is what is going on in Britain. We need a Trump-style revolution.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening here, saying there are two genders, dealing with the border, getting rid of net zero and getting on with drill, baby, drill.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we need right over Europe, and it can't come soon enough because our country is tanking economically and it's tanking socially because we haven't sorted out those problems.
Well, about that net zero stuff, right now, Europe and mostly Germany and stuff is depleting their natural gas resources at record paces, and they're not refilling them. England at one point, or UK at one point, had record spike, like 8 times spike in energy prices.
We have the highest energy prices in the world, and it's killing our industry. We've just closed down our last steel plant that produced steel from scratch. And we need to get on with fracking in the UK. We have massive natural gas reserves. We could be fracking, but it's the environmental nutters that have been gluing themselves to the road that have stopped any progress in our country. And what is going to happen over the next few years is people in Britain are going to be calling out for President Trump once he's finished in America to go and run to be Prime Minister in Britain, because we need the kind of change in Britain that we're seeing in America now.
And since we're in America, one of the things we can criticize is the fact that, the number one name in London is Muhammad right now. Immigration is a real problem.
That's in the UK, and that's Mohammed with a certain spelling.
Right.
So if you did all the different spellings of Mohammed, it's the number one by quite a long way. And, we've been having this conversation with a lot of Americans. It's amazing that a tweet went viral, right, on a post on X about the grooming gang scandal. These men largely from Pakistani communities who were drugging, abusing, torturing, mass raping girls, handing them around from men to men in orgies. We're talking about tiny little girls here. This first came to light in the UK 10 years ago, and it's taken X and someone posting it on X for the whole world to go, oh my goodness, how has that happened? At the moment, there's been a trial taking place for the Southport murderer, a guy who had an Al-Qaeda manual who went and stabbed loads of little girls in a dance class, a Taylor Swift dance class. The government tried to cover it up again. It led to rioting in Britain when they realised information about who the perpetrator was being concealed from them. We have a massive problem with this in the UK, and what's the government doing? They want to bring in legislation to criminalise Islamophobia, to make it hate speech, to criticise Islam.
Well, that's the problem, is you can't even say facts without them knocking on your door.
It's appalling. We've got short of police resources, but they are knocking on journalists' doors at the weekend to complain about tweets that they're putting out. And people in Britain are very, very angry about this. Keir Starmer has a 16% approval rating because people can see there are massive problems, but no one's talking about it because we've got the BBC, which covers all of this stuff up. And the BBC needs to be defunded. I heard you talking about PBS, but the BBC is an even bigger problem in Britain. It is the Britain-bashing corporation. It needs to be defunded.
This is great. I mean, by the way you guys are talking, I feel like you guys are going to start driving on the right side of the road soon. All right. Liz Truss, Alex Phillips, we very much appreciate
Good to be on your
us.
show.
Thank you.
Listen, I am married to an extremely perfect and wonderful man from North Carolina. His family has farmed this great country since before it even was a country. And just like this country, I was more than happy to give up the crown, say goodbye to Blighty, be like, bye Felicia, until I listened to Liz today. Perhaps there is a future for Britain if brains like hers are involved. Then again, I also have the misfortune of speaking to British people most days, and they aren't the sharpest tools in the shed. They may be the sharpest tools in the commie shed, but who wants to be in a communist shed? Anyway, certainly not me. Let's move on from this metaphor and bring in a just absolutely superb monologue now from Chris Salcedo of the Salcedo Show. I don't need to say any more. We're going to let Chris take it away.
It was quite a first full day for President Trump as he was bringing dreams back to America. His political opposition was mired exactly where they have been, in lawlessness, depravity, and racism. America has outgrown the left. Those are my observations in today's preamble. Let's start off with Trump's announcement about the Stargate project. This is an artificial intelligence initiative that will be based in my home state of Texas.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure the future of technology. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor and others are competitors. We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available.
As excited as I am that someone in our government isn't content to let communists in China use our money to dominate the AI space, I should let President Trump know that Texas is hampered by leftists, and that could stop his America First agenda. In a continuation of something I call the Gang of 11 coup in 2009, 36 fake Republicans in Texas just joined 50 leftists to elect another Democrat-controlled speaker who falsely claims to be a Republican. This majority Democrat coalition run by the left wing is thought to be a major impediment to Texas upgrading its reliable energy infrastructure, placing human life and entrepreneurship at risk. It's done all to placate the left's toxic pro-China so-called green energy agenda. If Stargate breaks ground in Texas, they had better use part of that $500 billion investment and pack their own power. Right now, Texas is over-reliant on unreliable wind and solar energy production that has already killed 250 Texans in a major winter storm in 2021. It doesn't have to be this way, as Texas is the Saudi Arabia of natural gas, an abundant, inexpensive, and clean fuel that would put Texans to work and supply America and all of our trading partners with all of the inexpensive and reliable energy they would need for over 100 years. So while President Trump was aiming high, leftists were occupying their normal dwelling space, down there in the sewer. Here's a fake pastor that for some unknown reason was allowed to use a traditional prayer service and Almighty God himself to push perversion and lawbreaking.
I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives.
Really? Gays, transvestites, lesbians, and folks with actual gender dysphoria are living in fear of death because of Trump's election? Well, let's examine that, shall we? Who can forget the mass shooting at the Pulse nightclub? The 2016 massacre featured the brutal killing of gays, at the time a Democrat constituency, by another Democrat constituency, a radical jihadist. Caught between a rock and a hard place, leftists in and out of the biased press blamed the gun, not the jihadist. Many gays had said they would have preferred to have a firearm, to defend themselves from one of the left wing's little darlings. Hence, many started to question blind allegiance to left-wingers. Oh, and many of those gays went out and bought themselves a gun. As the trans hysteria being pushed by leftists in and out of government has kicked into high gear over the last decade, really, the rise in shootings at the hands of transvestites is hard to ignore. Proponents of disrupting the natural balance in youth with hormones and puberty blockers and other transition chemicals say that these things promote mental wellness in our youth. Not only is that turning out, courtesy of some studies, that claim isn't worth the paper it's printed on, showing no causal relationship between artificial transitioning and drops in suicide rates, some studies suggest it's just the opposite, that these chemicals are having a direct negative impact on the chemical balance of the brains in our youth.
Yeah, no, Chris, it ain't just kids and it ain't just puberty blockers, blah, 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 mental health pills, yada, whatever they're going to come out with this week. Just a few days ago, I was chatting to a group of my girlfriends from both the UK and America. I just want to point that out. All of us, or all of these girls and I noted that our mothers are kind of going a little bit, I don't know, something's not right there. One thing all of these women had in common, they've all been prescribed the same prescription pill. Now, I'm not going to go on the Newsmax Daily podcast and name this pill, but if you want to hit me up on X, but you can find me, my name is K Hill or K Smythe-Hill, whatever. I'll tell you the name of that drug because I am now convinced that this mental health crisis we're facing, it is not just limited to kids. It's not just limited to sort of like the millennial and younger generation. There are a lot of older people, both here in the US and back in the UK, who have been prescribed a lot of drugs that, like, quite frankly, I don't think they need. And I think it's destroying their lives. Anyway, we're not going to go on and on and on about this today because we're in a good vibe, okay? It's been a good week. Lots of happy things are happening. I want to turn over now to Bob Brooks because this man just makes me laugh. We're going to let Bob take it away with American Agenda. Yeah, you just get ready. I love this guy.
Welcome back into American Agenda. I've often thought this and had conversations about Trump eventually winding up being one of the most significant and consequential figures in all of American history. And if you're part of the MAGA movement, you already know this. Well, there's a lot of people, that includes much of the media, who don't, though. If you ever watch our program, you know I get on liberal media's case quite often, but maybe there's some hope for them. Others, not so much, which I'm going to explain that in just a minute. But first, I do want to get to this. Politico's John Harris, he's the founding editor, global editor-in-chief of Politico. Here's the article he penned, quote, "Time to admit it, Trump is a great president. He's still trying to be a good one. I think it's about time people start admitting it, even if it comes with that little grain of salt that he put in there, writing he's trying to be a good one. You could argue against that. But what stood out to me the most of what he wrote in this article, again, is something the MAGA movement already knew. It's this. What he didn't show in his first term or on his improbable pathway to a second was an ability to bring these conflicts to resolution, to unite the country on a new level of understanding. Okay. Now, I also can argue he did show the ability during these conflicts to show a resolution in his first term, but he was fought tooth and nail the whole time through a variety of methods, media, Democrats, rhinos, whatever it may be. But it's this part right here I want to highlight this. To unite the country on a new level of understanding. His movement is now the overwhelming movement in the majority of the country. It has finally sunk in. Took a long time, a lot of fighting. He was nearly killed, but without question, he has brought America into a new level of understanding things. You look at everything people are on board with now. You look at fixing immigration from top to bottom, trade practices that put the American worker first, a peace through strength military, DEI initiatives. Oh my gosh, goodbye, getting rid of them today. A government hiring system based on merit. The list goes on. All things that he has been campaigning on ever since he came down the golden escalator right there back in 2015. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It was not easy, but America is fundamentally changed. You cannot argue that now. And Trump knows this, so don't worry. He said that on Inauguration Day. Let's listen.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Pretty inspiring there, but not everyone's going to get it. Many in the liberal media, they are hell-bent on fighting him until the very end. But I have a thought today. Who cares? Try and make him look bad. And I got you moment. Press him on things. Who cares anymore? They've been exposed. That's why I want to pivot to this. It was this exchange between Trump and NBC's Peter Alexander talking about the January 6th pardons, bringing up a comment from Vice President Vance, almost as if he's trying to create some kind of friction between the two. And then I also want you to notice Alexander's facial expressions while Trump is talking here. Let's bring it up.
I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your vice president wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served.
18, 12, 20 years.
They've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country. And we had 1,500. We have 16 under review. As you know, we commuted about 16 of them because it looks like they could have done things that were not acceptable for a full pardon. But these people have served years of jail, and their lives have been ruined. And in many cases, listen to me for a second. Yes. Stop interrupting.
It's like he had to listen to Trump, but then make sure everyone knows he was thinking what Trump is saying is ridiculous. You know, you see his eyes, facial expressions. Then he interrupts. The president of the United States has to ask him to finish his sentence. Joe Biden never get that treatment? Reporters talking over him in the middle of an explanation. But we've seen this behavior for years. So as we enter this new era into our country, I say, who cares what they do or how they act towards the president? It only makes them look even worse than they already do.
Yeah, agreed. Right? Am I crazy? Don't answer that. We're going to keep on the same theme of American agenda now and turn over to my second favorite thing that Trump has done thus far, which is wipe out DEI. My favorite thing was him removing the COVID vax from the schedule that you need to become a legal immigrant here. But we want to focus on the DEI stuff because if anything was going to destroy us, it's giving people stuff they haven't earned just because of their skin color, their reproductive organs, who they're attracted to. Guess what? None of those things make you a good decision maker or a leader. They're superficial for the most part. And quite frankly, no one cares. We're all the same under God's love. And that's all I care about because God clearly loves America. So anyway, bye-bye DEI. You will not be missed. Take it away, American Agenda, one more time. Oh, I am so excited this week, guys. I'm sorry, it's just so exciting.
We are now 3 days into the Trump administration, and the president is making good on another major campaign promise, doing away with DEI on day one. He signed an executive order dismantling federal DEI programs, and now he has ordered that all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion offices are to close and the staff to be placed on paid leave by the end of the business day today, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A memo from the Office of Personnel Management says these programs, quote, divided Americans by race, wasted taxpayer dollars, and resulted in shameful discrimination. Joining me now, National Report co-host Emma Reckenberg and Republican strategist Whitley Yates. Great to have you both on here. Emma, I'm going to start with you. You're sitting next to me in studio. We have had so many conversations together on both of our shows and beyond on DEI, saying it is probably the worst thing that could happen for our country. It divides rather than bringing people together. What do you think about this move? At 5 p.m. today, it's over.
I think it's fantastic. By the way, let's bring merit back. People who actually deserve to be in the room with those jobs, they should have a chance at getting them. Welcome to the Trump administration 2.0. He made these promises along the campaign trail. Here he is delivering on them. Imagine if he had a sports team that was based on DEI. You wouldn't win because you'd be searching just for traits and qualities that we can't control, gender or race or sexual preference. Get rid of it. You want the winning team, by the way, and choose who's best qualified.
Yeah, you want the best in the business leading whatever that said business is, and it looks like we're going back in that direction. Whitley, yesterday on The View, co-host Sunny Hostin attacked President Trump for his stance on DEI. Here's what she said.
Donald Trump saying things that this country would be a meritocracy. You're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit. He hasn't had he had no political experience whatsoever. He had no business experience. He was given everything that he has. He is a legacy hire. He is, if anything, a DEI hire, a didn't earn it hire. And so, you know, those were just some of the things that I was thinking about.
Seems like she got it all kind of mucked up and confused there, Whitley. Obviously, America elected him president. He's a very successful businessman. He certainly did that on his own over these many, many decades. Also, it just seems like she is looking for any way to attack the president. What do you think?
Absolutely. You know, it's so funny watching Sunny with such shady comments. She's consistently lambasting President Trump. She's never supported him and never given him credit for anything, so she's not going to start now. But I do find it interesting that she is using the did not earn it to say that he is a president that did not earn the millions and millions and millions of people who voted for him, not only just for him, but Republicans up and down the ballot. She's really just Sunny the sore loser at this point.
You know, when she was saying that, Emma, it made me think about Kamala Harris, because it's like, well, wait a minute. She didn't even win a primary. She didn't even do anything. And suddenly she was in this position where she was running for president. In that position, it was certainly okay. But all of a sudden now, all of the extreme left-wing media supporters and beyond suddenly are up in arms that a businessman is back in the White House.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. They aren't fans of Donald Trump this time around. It's a shame because you're going to lose the viewership that maybe you had, because more than half of the country, at least in the popular vote, supported Donald Trump. So get on board with at least seeing some of the executive orders in play. His priority right now is the border. That has to do with security for our nation. Sonny, you might benefit from that, or your friends or loved ones who want to stay safe in their communities. And the list goes on and on, from economic prosperity to being a force on the world stage. You know, these aren't all bad things. In fact, they're pretty positive. Let's see what this administration could do before we bash it from the beginning.
Yeah, you know, it seems, and I want to play the soundbite in a second, Willie, but before I do, it just really seems like the left and people like, say, Sunny Hostin are so stuck on certain phrases and certain words that they almost forget what it actually means. They don't even think outside the box, thinking, well, wait a minute, let me think critically. Maybe there is a better way.
Newsmax family, I've never been more excited to talk to you this week. I will be back tomorrow with another Newsmax Daily podcast episode before my favorite Tony returns. You guys know Tony. You will love Tony Marino. Thank you for putting up with me today. The date is January 23rd, 2025. My name is Kay Hill, also Kay Smythe, Kay Smythe-Hill. You can just call me Kay. It is a beautiful day to be in America. God bless you all. I'll see you in a minute now.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.